that in mind, business phone is the next one that we're going to be jumping into, which is you have, again, all about options today that I want to give you guys. Freedom Voice, Ring Central. I have Freedom Voice, right? So Freedom Voice and Ring Central are the two really main ones that I'm seeing the most success in. Or you can also use your virtual address, right? So I know that Regis and Opus, they offer like a bonus package. It's a little bit more, but where they can give you like a phone number inside of their system. So the way that works is if somebody were to call them, they would forward it over to you. And then from there, you would obviously take that call. If you want a little bit more control, I recommend Freedom Voice or Ring Central. And then if you want even more control and you want access to a tray line that's going to report, you guys can go ahead and check out Verizon. Now, you essentially, the way that it works is you would take all of your documents. So you would take your LLC, you would take your EIN, you would take your articles of organization, your operating agreement, right? Whatever it is that you have. And then you don't want to speak to just anyone behind the counter. I've actually gotten really familiar with this process because one of my clients inside of our group actually works at, I believe he's at AT&T. So the process is pretty similar. But what you want to do is you want to speak to an actual small business account manager. They're going to be able to set it up for you versus speaking to just a regular rep. Not knocking the rep, but we want to get access to the person that actually kind of has the golden hand, that knows what they're doing, because they see businesses come in and come out day in, day out. Now, this is going to be, or can be, completely non-PG. Again, depending on where your business is, they'll let you know, hey, you may need to personally guarantee this, or hey, you may need to do a $500 deposit if you wanted to make the PG go away so that you can non-PG. At that point, it'll be totally up to you. Now, the $3,500 line of credit, I don't want you to think of this like true cash value. So here's what that means. It not being true cash value means you're not going to be able to use the $3,500 that you get at Verizon over at Macy's or over for your next real estate project. That $3,500, you're only going to be able to use it inside of that store. So this is going to be like a vendor line of credit. So iPads, for those of us that are getting into content creation, for those of us that saw the call yesterday about content creation, about YouTube. I mean, that was a phenomenal call. I would be taking advantage of this so that I can go out, get myself some iPads that I can possibly record off of or start creating some content through. I'm all about kind of like doodling my ideas. Phones for you, for your employees, or for your contractors, all through that one trade line as well. Now that you have that, you have your business email, and now we're going to start working off of online presence, especially for those of us that are really starting to get more into the content creation side, for those of us that are really starting to use media to scale our brands and scale our businesses. Like anything else, you want to be highly searchable, because if you can't be found, then clients don't know how to call you to be serviced. So it's the same thing here. If you can't be found by the banks, then they don't know how to service you, which in this case, they want to service you with debt, AKA leverage. That's what they call it, debt service. Right. So with them being able to service you, you don't want to have an email address that's like Irv@Yahoo. Right. It would serve you far better if you had your actual website, Wix.com, GoDaddy. You guys want to set up through Cloudflare. If you guys want to go right through ClickFunnels, all of these different services, depending on where your website is, typically offer that email service where you can add an account on the bottom of it. Right. And so let's say if it's Irv@irvofficial.com, I can have, instead of having Irv@yahoo.com, right? That's going to be a no-no. I want to have Irv@irvofficial.com or support@irvofficial.com. Whatever it is that your business is, that's where essentially how and where you want to set it up. Now, one of the ways that you can syndicate it, because this happens to come up quite a bit, is, hey, do I actually have to go out and like write blogs about my business? And do I actually have to go out and like list myself in each of these websites? You can do it over on listyourself.net. And you can also take it a step further over to yext.com, and they'll also start syndicating your essentially your website, and they'll start syndicating your information. So that way, if somebody were to, what was that?
Real quick. I didn't want to interrupt your thought.
You're good.
Yeah. So one of the things that you also can do is, when I was going through verification process before everybody got verified, congrats to Shamori and Irv Official for both getting verified, by the way.
Look a shout out.
Yeah. So before I actually did that, we actually had to build press up for myself. Right. And so there is PR agencies that will literally like SEO your business all over the place, dirt cheap. Yeah. And all they're using is like Chat GPT, all these AI softwares, nobody's really writing these things, right? And
No.
so what's really helpful is you can actually list, Eat Up Demo takes over Southern California. Like these are the titles that will like actually happen. So that way when banks Google you, they'll actually see all these actual articles about you too. That's a gem people don't talk about. So not only are you labeled in the, 411 and Google My Business and all this, but you're actually having real articles written about your business. That
Yes.
perception is reality. They don't go that extra step and talk about PR for the business. You can do that super affordable. I've got the connects for that as well. The other thing I want to ask was, there's some people that's in software, Irv. And so there's a thing called Twilio, which is a white labeled phone number, right?
Yes.
You see that kind of in Keep, or you see that in different texting apps, right? With Community. Would a white labeled number be sufficient, or would that be insufficient for a business phone number? And the second question is do you know if there's an 800 number with Verizon or not? Shout outs to Corey. I used to be a Verizon rep as well.
I haven't seen it if there's a 1-800 if there's a 1-800 number with Verizon. So if you
Okay.
guys do know that, you
We'll
guys can
check
drop it
that
in the
out.
chat. White labeling though is interesting because I've had Twilio shut down some of our accounts more
Really?
for more for SMSing. And this is going to be a little geeky. So for those of us that are like running a floor with people in our departments, you never want to just go through like HubSpot, or you never just want to go through some of these more white labeled services. You're better served if you go through an actual service. So like the one that I mentioned earlier, those are their own services. So Freedom Voice, those are their own services. That's why you don't want to use Google Voice either, right? Even though it's pretty popular, but that'll also get flagged because it's not a legitimate number. It points back to, hey, you've reached, let's say, Google Voice, leave a message. So if you are taking notes, Alloware. So Alloware, I believe is how you spell it. So Alloware. If you guys maybe have some type of sales department and there's multiple numbers that you want to get, Alloware is one of them. And then you're not going to get flagged and you're not going to get hit if you have a bunch of reps sending out text messages through that as well to get more business for you.
Okay. Yeah, Verizon does have an 800 number as well. So keep rocking,
Beautiful.
bro. I just want to add that sauce in there.
Beautiful. No, I love it. I love it. Was that it right there for that part?
Yep.
So that's essentially it. So 100%, I'm going to back Rad up with that. So one thing that I wanted to add on that as well is for the publications, some states, when you change your address and when you change something on the business, specifically business address, is you have to publish at least one type of publication on there. I believe it's either New York or Jersey. That's one of kind of like the mandates that they have. And so you have to have a piece of media that's publishing that piece of information. So just something to keep in mind, where I think that publication would really come in handy moving forward. Now that we have all of this, business name, the LLC, the business phone number, the business email. I know it sounds like a lot. Now we want to actually step foot into the bank. A lot of people skip these parts. They walk into a bank and, can you get some type of approval without having that in place? Possibly, right? But are you, again, leaving money on the table by not having that in place? 100%. So now you want to step into a bank. I like regional banks. I like local banks, and I like national banks. Rad is a bit more well-versed with credit unions than I am, right? But I'm more of like a bank junkie. I just like banks a little bit more than credit unions themselves. One of the reasons for that is because, again, depending on where you are in your business, is credit unions don't typically report your business purchases over to the business credit bureaus, but banks do. Something to keep in mind. Now, if you wanted to write a completely incognito stealth type of card where, hey, it's not getting reported anywhere, right? Obviously, if you default and you're PGing, it's going to get sent over to, to the bureaus. But in that case, if it's not reporting anywhere, then at that point, that's when I usually tell my clients, hey, at that point, you may want to consider taking a look at a credit union versus taking a look at a bank.